Well, good morning, everybody. I'm coming to you from, I don't know why, but this is a special place. You probably can't see everything, but in this particular spot, there's a lot going on. We are in a new growth forest. It's all cedar and poplar and birch. And there's little maple trees coming up here and there. I think they're Manitoba maple, but maple trees nonetheless. And there's sumac off on the edge that hasn't bloomed yet. But it's all fairly new forest here. But I don't think this was ever cleared for farmland. It's sort of the little valley where a creek runs through between good farmland. So I don't think anybody ever came through and picked the rocks. And I'm leaning against this boulder that has to weigh 1,000 pounds. Just beyond the camera, there's a giant esker, which is a glacial thing, and so it's clear that this rock is probably dumped here by glaciers. And and there's a beaver dam just over here, and so the creek, runs way over there, and it's quite a bit below us. But there's clearly a spot around us, a little lower than where I'm sitting, where the water's running sort of around the beaver dam and through the earth. In my lifetime, not a lot is going to change here, but this is a place where, on like a geological, natural history scale, things are happening, and just sitting here, it kind of feels like I'm part of something. Anyway, Psalm 31, which is attributed to David. That may mean that David himself wrote it. It could mean that someone wrote it in David's honor or from David's perspective. But it's a song of David. You, O Lord, I put my trust. Let me never be ashamed. Deliver me in your righteousness. Bow down your ear to me. Deliver me speedily. Be my rock of refuge, a fortress of defense to save me. For you are my rock and my fortress. Therefore, for your name's sake, lead me and guide me. Pull me out of the net which they have secretly laid for me. You are my strength. Into your hand I commit my spirit. You have redeemed me, O Lord, God of truth. I have hated those who regard useless idols, but I trust in the Lord. I will be glad and rejoice in your mercy, for you have considered my trouble. You have known my soul in adversities. And have not shut me up into the hand of the enemy. You have set my feet in a wide place. Have mercy on me, O Lord, for I am in trouble. My eye wastes away with grief. Yes, my soul and my body. For my life is spent with grief, and my years with sighing. My strength fails because of my iniquity, and my bones waste away. I am a reproach among all my enemies, but especially among my neighbors, and am repulsive to my acquaintances. Those who see me outside flee from me. I am forgotten like a dead man out of mind. I am like a broken vessel, for I hear the slander of many. Fear is on every side. While they take counsel together against me, they scheme to take away my life. But as for me, I trust in you, O Lord. I say, you are my God. My times are in your hand. Deliver me from the hand of my enemies and from those who persecute me. Make your face shine upon your servant. Save me for your mercy's sake. Do not let me be ashamed, O Lord, for I have called upon you. Let the wicked be ashamed. Let them be silent in the grave. Let the lying lips be put to silence, which speak insolent things proudly and contemptuously against the righteous. Oh, how great is your goodness, you who have laid up those who fear you, which you have prepared for those who trust in you. In the presence of the sons of men, you shall hide them in the secret place of your presence, from the plots of man. You shall keep them secretly in a pavilion, from the strife of tongues. Blessed be the Lord, for he has shown his marvelous kindness in a strong city. For I said in my haste, I am cut off before your eyes. Nevertheless, you heard my voice of my suppliance, when I cried out to you. O love the Lord, all you his saints, for the Lord preserves the faithful and repays the proud person. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart, all you who hope in the Lord. What does it mean for you to take refuge in God? I want you to just take a minute, maybe pause the video and think about that. And I recognize that for some people, that's going to be a tough question. For a lot of you, I know you'll just sort of be able to answer right away. But I know there's others, and I'm one of them, actually, that struggles with that question. What does it mean to take refuge in God? I'm going to tell you the reason that I really struggle with it. I'm very much a results guy, or not a results guy, a progress guy, an action guy. But the main reason is that I think passages and sentiments and things like this that tell us to take refuge often can be used to preserve suffering. The classic example is someone in an abusive relationship. Imagine you're in an abusive relationship and someone just says, take refuge in the Lord. You'll find strength. That's not changing the situation. And some situations need to be changed. This situation, we'll talk more about it in a minute, that was a sit tight kind of situation. But some situations need to be changed. Oftentimes, we need action. And maybe we just need that pause where we gather strength before we step another step. But that next step, I think, is really important, and especially from a justice perspective. So I can get caught up in it. And for me, feeling God's refuge without having a path forward, it doesn't feel like I'm doing discernment. It doesn't feel like I'm doing enough to be part of the solution. But I will recognize that for people holding on for dear life, for people who life is just pressing forward at a tremendous pace, and maybe the burden of life is very heavy, simply telling them that it's okay and that God is there with you, that can be a powerful thing. And that's kind of what this psalm does. And I think we've got to recognize too that very few people have it that together. Even the people that really have it together still have those dark nights of the soul. I often talk to people in the congregation that are going through a tough time, and I'll phone them during the day when it's polite to phone, and they'll be in great spirits. But then I think, where are you at 10 o'clock at night when it's dark and you're alone? And even the people that have it together can feel that life is just relentless. And this passage can tell you that, yes, life might be relentless. It might just be pressing on, but it's okay. God is with you. I need another step, and I think that from a preacher's perspective, there needs to be another step. And so what I want you to do is think for a moment about what did this sentiment mean for David? Why was he writing this song? Let's recognize that he was looking back in retrospect. Whatever he was writing about had happened. It's like losing a loved one when, you've got all the hurried and busy time of being a caregiver, and then you have the fever pitch of funeral arrangements and things like that. And then you've got all the phone calls and the family popping in and things like that. And then there's that time of rest where you can finally take a breath and honor what's gone on in the last weeks, months, years. That's where David's at. The thing has happened, and David is reflecting on it. And when I was preparing for the Amos series this week, I came across this idea that by the time Amos came along, he was sort of the first of a new breed of prophets, but the old prophets were there to sort of whisper assurances in the king's ear. So you're David, and you've got your neighbors attacking your nation, and they're all bigger than you. Israel was not a big country, and we forget that, I think. On paper, they're going to take your city. What do you do? And it was sort of the prophet's prerogative to say, I don't like the chosen people thing, but Israel was the people God used to talk to the rest of us. This was an important people at a formative time in their history, and the prophets were saying, you know what, God's doing something through you. It'll be okay. That was sort of the prophets, one of the prophets' roles at that time, and that's kind of what this psalm is about. And I think with David looking at it in hindsight, what's going to be really clear to him is that yes, this was tough, but God was doing something, and it'll seem clearer to him as to what God was doing. He'll have seen the victory, he'll have seen the suffering and the challenge, and then he'll have seen the victory and what that means for the future. And so this is a psalm of lament and help, but it's also recognizing that something good happened in the end, and that God, they did find refuge in God. And I guess just my question for you is when we're in the position when David wrote this song, in terms of COVID-19, what are we going to be looking back in hindsight? COVID-19, especially from an everyman perspective like us, I'm just a little minister out in the country, and most of us are not leaders. So the message of COVID-19 for us is very clearly, sit down and wait, which is what I'm doing. It's very clearly just wait, take refuge in God. There isn't a next step yet. I think we are discerning next steps, but generally there's not one yet. So what, if we take refuge in God now, to what point are we going to find ourselves, to what point is it getting us to? And what are we going to look back in hindsight and go, okay. When I look at this psalm in this time, I think there's a tremendous amount of comfort there, saying God is with you in these tough times. I don't think it's saying God causes the tough times. I think it's saying that God can use them, that God is with us, that, if we're discerning and if we set ourselves aside, then we will be able to see what God's doing and be part of what God's doing. It is saying, we can take refuge in God right now. And I think giving us assurance that there will be that next step. Amen.